Morning, new base. I'm reminding myself this morning why I left the slabs. From where I came from, the perspective-wise, Slab City, I was a homeowner. I never would have imagined myself able to be such a thing. It was a camper, but I had the title to it. Police, the sheriff's there, couldn't come into my camp. I had a proper boundary around it, made of cans. But they couldn't come in without a warrant. Had no boss. Had no threatening bills from any electrical company. You will be shut off if... I was able to lay my PTSD to rest. And while I was there in my camper, I didn't want to get involved with the things going on around me. So I'd watch YouTube. And I would see, like, one of my favorite channels was Scarlett O'Hare. Hair. Long red hair. And she was just so delighted with what she could do and what she could create. I saw videos of people rating the airlines, and Qatar Airlines, their first class is outstanding. Their business class puts any airline America makes, puts their first class to shame. So Qatar business class outdoes American first class when it comes to airline travel. I saw things like machines in the city that would pull water out of the air and filter it for drinking water. On your base. Saw a farmer up in Alaska extending the season for people for work, growing seaweed and adding mussels to it. People coming up with creative ways to make themselves sustainable, working with the earth. People who could take compliments and give them without hesitation. I saw a brave new world out there. We had tourists come through, stop at the Oasis Club. They were young people. And they had not been raised with any religion. They had no concept, no idea what it was to hate oneself, consider oneself a sinner, unworthy of life, having to sacrifice themselves and everything. There is a brave new world out here, and I forgot about it, doing what it took to leave the slabs. And I had a hard time leaving. Not emotionally. Emotionally, that brave new world, that was doing more for me just knowing it exists, just witnessing it in shorts on YouTube. But because I had become a consistent part of the slab community, people could rely on me. They knew I'd be there for them. And those are the people who will never treat you better than they treat themselves. So, living in trash, they'll expect you to, and they'll expect you to be happy and satisfied with that. And to leave people like that, they'll do everything they can not to let you do it, even if your life is on the line. I had the hospital there in El Centro pay for a hotel room for me because they said I was going to die if I went back into that heat at Slab City. And men who had air conditioning knew that. But the only way they would let me into that air conditioning is if I had sex with them. Tried to get out of the slabs. Old man across the road. He says, oh yeah, I have the VA pays for an apartment for me. I have an artist in one spare room. You can have the other spare room. Week after week, one excuse after another. He said, oh, I'm going out to San Diego. That's where the apartment was. And you could come with me. I'm like, oh, cool. So we can check out the apartment and what room we're going to be in. No, you could sleep in the car with me while I go from dumpster to dumpster looking for electronic equipment. That's when I realized I had waited. And he was lying to me. He was not going to let me in that apartment. He would rather see me dying across the road so he could get a look at me in skimpy clothes every day. Feel better about himself. See me smile. I have a propensity for bringing laughter wherever I go. And he didn't want to sacrifice that. He'll let me get some moldy water out of his water tank. He'll get me a salad once in a while. But let me and my dogs, who brought him so much joy, go? Even for our well-being, even just for the summer? Hell no. That's the mentality there. And as far as my home, this is the way slabbers play it. And I knew it. When you need the money, you need to leave. Nobody has any money. Sorry, they can't buy your camper. Oh, they'll give you $100 for a camper that was roadworthy. All its tires inflated, structurally sound. That thing could have been pulled down the road, plugged in at any fully outfitted campsite. Sewage, running water, everything. They wait until you're desperate. You'll take $50. And then after you're gone, they'll find somebody, they'll sell it amongst one another for like $2,000. No problem. So I knew they weren't going to want to let me go. They would try to prevent me from leaving. And they would take everything they could financially out of me before I left. So I burnt the title to the camper. They're not going to find it. And anybody taking that camper out of there is going to have to go through holy hell to get a new title for it. But I found this morning, I really just wanted to remind myself of why I wanted to leave that brave new world out here. And how it is beginning to manifest for me. The guy was so relieved when he finally was able to get me the bus ticket to get out of Los Angeles. And he told me, he says, you know, you're a miracle. A woman like you who doesn't drink, who doesn't do drugs, who's just trying to get by and get on with her life, would normally within 3 days have been dosed, hog-tied, gang raped, and then burnt alive in a tent right there on the streets in front of the shelter. But I was focused on going to the refreshment center every day where they had one of those machines run by a solar panel on top that pulled air out of the water and provided drinking water. From there, I went to Miami, and I got to wander around where they get onto and get off of flights from Qatar Airlines. I come here, and the guy asks, "What kind of music do you like to listen to?" "Native fusion." "Like what?" "Ottoman." Oh, he pulled up his sweatshirt. He had an Ottoman t-shirt on underneath it. I had a funny story about skunks in Montana. I told that story, and then later that night, I was sitting outside here at the hotel, and skunk comes wandering through. Big fat thing. I had an experience with a guy and a fox. And then I talked to this other guy, and he's got a fox chasing him from campsite to campsite. And it's going to be 90 degrees here over the next few days. And I have air conditioning. It may only be for a week. Maybe in August, when it's up to 100 out here, I'll be in a tent by the river. But gradually, I am finding that brave new world that I risked life and limb to leave Slab City for. And Anubis is having fun too. Huh.